let's move on from the bench boost to the one for me that is probably the most self-explanatory. Oh, and that is the triple captain. As long as you know that you get double points for captains every week, I'd hope that the triple captain is a self-explanatory one. I will say this, I've been playing this game for whatever it was, I think I showed last week, 10, 12 years, something like that, 7, 8 years. I've had some really good finishes and I've had some really poor ones. I think I've successfully used my triple captain once. I triple captain Alexi Sanchez, and he had a double game week, and I think he scored 5 goals, got 2 assists, and like max bonus points in both. It was like a 90 something point haul for just one guy. I had 180 something points. It was my highest game week ever. One time. I had a lot more of Sadio Mane in a double game week in January, and he goes off injured against Watford in the first 11 minutes of match one. You know what it's like looking at a 3 for 2 full weeks with that white triple C on the screen? I just watched my whole season plummet. So where do you put the triple captain, Timucin? And do you think that people overthink it?
I think just what you just said and your examples of the past pretty much tells the story, doesn't it? It's a crapshoot. I mean, it's you think you're gonna outsmart the system, and if you have a great matchup in your head, like Mo against Watford or Suarez against Norwich or something crazy like that, where it's a lock, and you still go with that, but like you're saying, I mean, anything can happen and the guy can get injured. I think it is overblown because you do get, double. But I think that's one important thing to mention if you're new to the sport, that you can double up these chips, correct? You can't double up. Can
No,
you?
you can
Or
always.
not double up, but like in terms of doing the double game week and triple captain in the guy then, so you can
Yes.
kind of get the most out of the triple captain. I think that's kind of like an important thing to know, because even if it is not a great player, you're better off, I think personally, doing that by increasing your chances rather than picking a random week just because you feel like the matchup is like the Suarez Norwich thing going there. Even then, I would probably wait on it and play it on a week where the player you want is playing like twice or whatever. So, I think it is a crapshoot overall. Aside from what I just said in terms of like maximizing it by using in like a multiple game week, I think you're just taking a guess in terms of like the most favorable matchup. It kind of reminds me of when you do fantasy football, like you like play the running back against the poorest run defense, and you're like, oh, he's gonna like just kill him. But then he ends up splitting time because he is killing them, and then like they're just like like resting him, or the other team decides to stop the run or something like that. So sometimes what you see as a matchup, similar to fantasy football, does not happen on the field. You just kind of have to bear that in mind, and that's why I feel it's more of a crapshoot than anything else.
What about you, Mateusz? How do you look at the triple captain? You have a good triple captain story, a war story for us?
I like the triple captain. I do agree 100% that it's a guessing game. I don't care how long you've played fantasy. I don't care if you've done it for 20 years. I don't care if you've done it for 1 year. We're all guessing at the very end of the day, right? We're using as much knowledge as we can to make the most informed decision. But at the end, it's just a guess. Because like you said, Gally, there's a chance Sadio Mane comes off in the 11th minute and you're done and you're shot. So when it comes to triple captain, I think last year I had Mo during that double game week that most people had. I feel like there was a large, I don't remember the percentage, but there was quite a big percentage of people that had Mo for that triple captain, that double game week. When he returned, it was between 40 to 60 points, I want to say.
Yeah, it was a good
So
week.
it was something in there. To Timochin's point, that is where I would lay my bet in, is any double game week, because at the very end of the day, if they at least play the full 90 minutes both games, they don't have any return, you still get 12 points, right? So that's at least the mindset, unless they get off injured or there's some rotation. So at the very least, I'd much rather take my chances at getting 12 points than getting 6 points if I just do one game randomly out of the season where I feel like this is the best matchup possible. Because that's ultimately what's going to cause me to overthink it and then just go with the wrong decision. So for me, double game weeks with bench boost and with triple captain, I think those are the prime chips for those weeks specifically.
By the way,
Yeah.
if I learned anything this episode, apart from like the chips so far and like the wealth of information you guys are giving me, if I ever want to give some flashbacks and nightmares, I'm just gonna say Mane, Watford, triple captain, and then just watch Galley's face. I might throw this, so like we should bookmark this because I'm gonna be doing this anytime I show up on the show. I'm just gonna be like Mane, Watford, triple captain, go.
We're gonna triple captain Mane this year, right?
Against Watford.
Someone will.
Too soon?
Too soon.
Against Wolfsburg or something. I don't know if they made it back to Bundesliga.
It was brutal one. But there's good ones, like, there's always the good ones, there's the bad ones. And then there's also like the really gutsy moves. And I think that's the one thing. You mentioned, Mateusz, that you triple captained Salah on a week where I want to say more people triple captained him that week than any other player's ever been triple captained in the game, which ultimately meant that if you had him captained, you actually wanted him to blank because you were going to go down in the standings every time he scored because so many more people were getting another third time of what your score was.
Yeah.
And there's something about that expected ownership. And at some point, we'll really geek out on this podcast. We'll probably excuse the grump for that one. And we'll go deep into the expected ownership numbers and how they are starting to swing the game and the top 10,000 players. And because I think what you find out is when you hear about these guys that have these like miraculous runs at the end of a season, they're the person who had the stones to triple captain Gabriel Jesus the week that he scored 26 points after not getting points for 5 straight weeks. Because a 72-point haul out of a player that less than 2% of the game owns will literally move you up 400,000 spots in a week. And it's those types of moves and gambles. That's where it is a guessing game. But I do think that's where the pros use numbers and statistics and analytics the same way that football clubs use analytics nowadays to actually see like where trends are created. So it's a projected gamble, no question. But there's a little bit of skill and set in it. And I think if I learned anything, it's if you really want to make it in this game, you have to have the stones to, go half the season without Mo Salah. Because everyone who dropped Mo Salah after the AFCON, they were the ones that made huge strides in the table because he wasn't scoring and everyone was still trotting him out of fear of missing out on the points that he could get.
See, that's a good question. And I know we're going to go away for the chips, but this is what I do. You guys know from Monday to just go totally into a different area. But
it's all right.
I want to get your guys' take on that. I mean, that's kind of like a weird strategy. And I think that's what, I'm going to constantly talk about how it compares to other fantasy sports. Because, if you're doing, for example, fantasy football or any league where you draft, right? You're kind of like putting your eggs in that guy's basket. If you had like the third pick, you pick a guy, quarterback, wide receiver, whatever, and you're kind of like stuck with him because, unless you try to find a guy to trade and stuff like that. Whereas in the Premier League fantasy, you have the option to kind of like dump him and get another star because usually it's going to be about the same price. What is your guys' general strategy? Obviously, there's going to be like specific incidents like Mo coming back, maybe being more tired, blah, blah, blah. But in terms of when you just look at form, when do you guys say, you know what? It's time to go. I'm going to like switch over to Kane or whatever, like Son or whatever. Or do you just play the odds and say he hasn't done jack for 2 weeks, he's due?
That's, I think, ultimately what did me in last year was I told myself, no matter what happens, I'm not letting Salah go. I was like, I'm going to keep him on this team because he's going to give me the same returns that he was giving me the first half of the season. I know it'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. And it wasn't fine. So I don't think I'm the right person to answer at what point do I give up on a player, because I won't. I will be so stubborn that I'll keep Leandro Trossard in my lineup because he scored a goal the first time I ever picked him up, and I will keep him for the next 4 to 5 weeks because I owe it to him to keep him on my team. And that's just kind of I've gone away from that a little bit, unfortunately. And so, but for me, I was just so stubborn on keeping Salah last year that I thought he was going to come back and return. And I think if I might have made a move earlier, I might have been able to move up a couple spots and catch up to Galley. But ultimately, yeah, I wanted him, and also because we're biased, the Liverpool fans too, right? We want him to come back. We want him to have that kind of impact that he had the first half of the season, at least from a scoring perspective. He still had an impact, right? When he's on a field, he has an impact, whether he's scoring or not. But fantasy-wise, it's a different. You have to look at it a little bit differently. And we wanted that, so I thought by keeping him, I could kind of bring that back and be able to rejoice in it when it did happen. Unfortunately, it didn't, but so be it.
So with me, I've had it two different ways with Mo over the 4 years he's been here. He's been on my team, I'd probably say 80% of the weeks. I've started every season with him. I'll probably start this season with him, though I do have two different drafts of my squad, one with Mo and one without. It's amazing how deep you can make a team without 13 million on one player.
Yeah.
But then I'll have that Mo FOMO when he scores 4 goals in the first 2 game weeks and has 2 assists and 3 bonus points in each match. And I'm watching all of you go up the scoreboard and I'm trying to outsmart everyone, not having the best fantasy player ever on my team.